Flashback! The year is 2001. Games like Final Fantasy, Wild Arms, Legend of Dragoon, and more grace the fantastic PlayStation 1 console. But there's just one problem. Your family only owns Nintendo consoles! Worry not, dear citizen, for there is hope for you! By the grace of heaven itself, or at least those people who gave us Waluigi, we have Goldensun. Goldensun was released on the Game Boy Advance in 2001, and while I don't remember exactly when I bought the game, I recall that it was because my babysitter had recommended it as an awesome series. Yeah, it turns out she was right. One of the first things people want to know about when you're playing a JRPG is the story, and I'm actually not going to talk a whole lot about that. I'd rather you go and play the game for yourself, experience the story completely fresh, so you don't have to worry about me telling you all the details. Frankly, the intro is long enough that you'll hear enough exposition to explain what's going on. So skip that, just go. Go play the game, don't worry about what the plot is. Plot, they're bad guys, they did a thing, you gotta go fix it. That's the plot. Go find out the details by actually playing the game. What we're going to talk about today are all of the different things that make Goldensun an amazing experience as a video game, what makes it so much fun to play, and why it is one of my favorite games of all time, despite the amount of years that have passed since I first played it. Alright, so the very first thing we're going to talk about is actually the music, which you don't think would be the first subject unless it's like a rhythm game, but in this particular entry, Goldensun's soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks ever put into a Game Boy Advance game, let alone an overall JRPG. The composer is Motoi Sakuraba. Now, if you're familiar with that name, it's probably because you checked out things like Dark Souls, where he has worked on since then. But Goldensun, for this little tiny Game Boy Advance game, has one of the most powerful soundtracks of any game I've ever played and probably ever will play. No matter what different environment you are in, no matter what the atmosphere is, what the tone is going to be, this game hits the nail on the head every single time. I can't think of a single track that I don't like from this game, and that's why Goldensun is just so freaking memorable. Even the dungeon themes are good. This is one of those all-around knockout soundtracks, and one that everybody should take a listen to. Now, I've already been playing the music in the background the whole time, but I want you to take a moment and listen to this track. First, a little bit of a setup. You've now reached the first major boss fight of the game, the first time you're facing your main antagonists. You've been working hard to get to this point, and now it is time for your first chance at a showdown, and this starts playing. The actual tone and atmosphere of everything happening around you is perfect, and this song just completely encompasses it. I mentioned before, it's not really usual that you'd say the music is the first thing you want to talk about, but Goldensun's soundtrack is without a doubt one of the best strengths it has, and I cannot get enough of it. I still listen to these songs over 10 years later. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, beautiful OST. So now that we've covered the music, let's talk about the gameplay. Obviously, when you're playing a video game, the gameplay is what matters most, right? So let's talk about that. Goldensun's gameplay is a mix of traditional JRPG and some fun puzzle elements. In the world of Goldensun, there are adepts, people who have psychic, magic, or what have you powers. They let you do things that control the different elements and sometimes interact with environments in cool ways. Some examples of the puzzles in the game include freezing puddles of water to create pillars of ice to stand on, moving objects that are outside of your reach using your psychic powers, and other really cool things that let you interact with the environment in unique and interesting ways. When it comes to smart game design that actually teaches the player, synergy is incorporated in a very easy, comprehensive way that lets the player learn very early on how to use their synergy, and then reapply those principles throughout the game as they get newer spells that let them do even more interesting things. The game's system for rewarding the players naturally is really effective because you have unique weapons, unique equipment, and even special collectibles that get added to your repertoire that let you do things that show, you know what? By going the extra step and using my powers creatively, I was able to get some extra thing I wouldn't have had otherwise, and it gives me a huge edge in battle or what have you. And the battle is definitely something we're going to talk about because that is very important to any JRPG. When it comes to enemy encounters, Goldensun has some of my favorite examples of how to execute traditional turn-based battles in a video game. While the different options you have in battle are not so unique to Goldensun, they are executed in a way that is very polished and fun. When you get a critical hit in this game, it feels good. Now, I mentioned synergy is important beyond just the overworld. The other function of your synergy is to, of course, assist you in combat. What you can do with synergy can really range all sorts of different things because you're mixing and matching earth, water, fire, and air. Now, your characters have different abilities and enemies have different weaknesses, but what's really cool about using your different elemental powers is they can be augmented with the help of these things called Jinn. The Jinn are kind of like collectible Pokemon that you find around the world. Finding these things is one of the greatest rewards that you can have for a player because they give you new spells and abilities, they give you increased stats, and everything else you could possibly want, so hunting them down is a huge benefit to the player. But what really makes Jinn cool in battle is not the different spells that they give you, the different synergy attacks, but the summoning that you can do. Because while the Jinn can be used to deal damage or boost your stats, when you use enough of the same element type, you can start summoning more powerful creatures. If you've ever heard of the dragon Tiamat or Neptune, King of the Sea, these can be summoned and used in battle to support your cast. And the animations that play during these battle sequences are absolutely awesome to watch. Even if you've seen them dozens of times, sometimes you might find yourself not wanting to skip it just because it looks so freaking cool. When it comes to visuals and battle, Goldensun definitely delivers. The game has a faux 3D art style, similar to how Donkey Kong Country has 3D sprites, where I believe they use 3D models and then turn those images of those 3D models into sprites. And this allows the camera to move around in multiple different dimensions, and also shows off really cool synergy abilities in three-dimensional space. What this really comes down to is, battles in Goldensun are visually very stimulating and a lot of fun to actually do because you can choose how you want to play. Also, there's a really cool arena mode where you can just straight up do the battles or even do player versus player battles, so it's a really great way to highlight what the different strengths are behind this title. You're gonna have fun, you're gonna enjoy yourself while playing Goldensun, even if you're fighting an enemy. Ugh! Feels good every time! I've covered a lot of different things, but when it comes down to it, Goldensun just has a very unique overall feeling where all these different things combined really came together for a cohesive and perfect experience. I don't mean that the game is flawless, but it feels so good to play, and I mean game feel is seriously top notch for Goldensun. From a roleplay standpoint, the game gives you its own set of freedoms by giving you yes or no questions that let you slightly direct the narrative, even though obviously, with a traditional RPG, it's going to have the same beginning and ending. This kind of subtle little bit of a difference still lets it feel like it's your adventure, like you're the one that's on this journey, and the way that the characters get to mix and match their Jinn powers also makes it feel more personal. You're not necessarily going to always be one type of energy. You could mix and match and end up with new classes and spells that you can use at any time. It's this kind of freedom that encourages multiple playthroughs, because a lot of the time, when you're playing an RPG, you're not going to find yourself wanting to drudge through the same stuff over and over and over. But in the case of Goldensun, the story isn't too long, and the things that you can do are different enough that it feels like a fresh experience every time you get through it, whether it's finding new areas that you missed before, or finding things that you didn't even know about within the game's combat mechanics. Goldensun is an adventure that's not just walking from point A to point B, but actually lets you get involved and engaged with the world around you, and the world itself is reacting to the things you're doing. It's a lot of fun, and I cannot stress it enough. I was a person who didn't even care about JRPGs, and yet I found myself playing Goldensun 3 times as a kid. I liked it that much, and I don't really know of many games that did that for me. The Takahashi brothers and Camelot really hit something beautiful here, and I'm so glad that I was lucky enough to experience it. The final thing I'm going to mention about Goldensun is the fact that even when the game is over, the story isn't really over. The game has an immediate direct sequel called Goldensun: The Lost Age. Now what's cool about this is all the stuff you did in Goldensun 1 actually matters, because you can transfer your items, your Jinn, everything you did over to the sequel and make use of those things when you get into the next game. For a complete experience, this is an absolute must, and it's something that really sets the game apart, because while so many other games reference things that happened in the past, this is a Game Boy Advance title that lets you transfer over your data and move it forward for the next generation of the title. All in all, Goldensun is what I consider to be gaming gold. Whether it was me as a child or me playing the game again, the game still holds up and is a great experience to try out. While it's not the most difficult of JRPGs, that's really not a bad thing. It gives you something fresh and different, something that other JRPGs don't always manage to achieve. It looks unique, it plays differently, and it's fun all the way through, with a gripping story that it makes you very interested not only in what the main plot is about, but also the different effects that your plot is having on the world around you. Goldensun is something very special and something that I will always personally keep in my heart. I love Goldensun, and I hope that someday, if you haven't played it before, you will get the chance to try it out too. Anyway, that's my take on Goldensun. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've ever played Goldensun or enjoyed it, or maybe have a preference for one of the other games in the series, please let me know in the comments below. If there's a game that you think is worthy of being called Gaming Gold, let me know about that too. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and all the other good stuff that comes with these videos. I'm Stanpai, thank you so much for watching. Oh, and Nintendo, if you're listening, give us more Goldensun. And do it right this time.